It's the Tech Ed Podcast. We are live streaming from Automate. Solutions from over 750 exhibitors on offer here at Automate. It's absolutely incredible walking the aisles, seeing all these new technologies, seeing the way that people are applying robotics and smart sensors and smart devices and fantastic uses in manufacturing and industrial controls and so on. It's just been absolutely wonderful. And what's even more wonderful is being in the FANUC Education Pavilion, which is where we're spending the entire week here at Automate, interviewing and chatting with some of the most fascinating people in the world of industrial automation, and particularly that world as it applies to education. So as we said, 750 different exhibitors, and one of them is sitting right next to me. She comes to us in the form of Sherri McCleary. Sherri is the executive director of Penn State's Digital Foundry at New Kensington. Sherri, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, and isn't it awesome? Just all the excitement, all the people that are here seeing incredible technology, yours included, all these great ways to upskill the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. And I can't think of any place I'd rather be than right here at Huntington Place, Detroit, Michigan this week, learning from some really amazing subject matter experts, including yourself. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I want to start with this. I'm always fascinated by people's career paths, how they got to where they are. So let's start by talking about your education, your career path, and this journey that led you to Digital Foundry.
Okay, so going back a long ways, I got my bachelor's degree in chemistry and then went on to get my master's degree in chemical engineering and materials engineering. Went to Carnegie Mellon for my master's degree, and while I was there, I was working as an intern for a little aluminum company known as Alcoa.
Right, yeah, a little company.
And went to work for them full time when I finished my education. Was very fortunate to be in technology development and new product development for my 30 plus years with that company.
Okay.
And took an early retirement, failed at that, and went on to work for Kennametal for a couple of years, starting up a new business for them based on 3D printing of metals.
Okay.
And while I was still with both of those companies, I was an advisor to the Penn State New Kensington campus, who was located very near to where Alcoa's technical center was located.
Okay.
And we were going through a major digital transformation in our global operations. And I was leading, one of the teams I was leading at the time was leading that technology development and transfer across the operations.
Okay.
And I got to see firsthand the challenges of both the technology transfer, the talent challenges, the cultural change that was needed to bring some of that new technology online. And it got me thinking about how do we make sure the next generation is prepared to deal with this rapid change? And how do we make sure smaller manufacturing companies have access to resources to help them? Because this is something that's affecting all of us.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
that's just a fascinating background. First of all, I spent our careers cross over in a couple different ways, but spent the better part of my career in manufacturing. Also was just terrible at retirement. I learned that really, really quickly that wasn't going to work long term, and didn't even think I would when I experimented with it. I was like, this isn't going to end well, but we'll try it. But I spent a lot of time in and around the coatings industry. So companies like PPG and Sherwin-Williams and BASF and all these folks, in actually quite a bit of time around chemical engineers, and they're brilliant. I mean, that is not an easy program to go through to get to get your master's from from an institution like Carnegie Mellon. That's really, really impressive, and obviously you got some smarts if you're able to have that pathway in your background. And then also this passion for the next generation. So Digital Foundry, first of all, I'm looking forward to learning more about it. I love the name. Where does the name Digital Foundry come from? Who came up with that and why?
So we worked with a marketing firm early on to say, how do we brand ourselves? We knew it was about digital and moving into this advanced technology, but we wanted to tie back to the roots of Pittsburgh, where we're located, and that Foundry, being a hub for the metals industry for over a century. It made a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So, and also it's kind of like, you're in a foundry, you're creating finished objects, objects that are functional and workable and work hardened. And, so it's kind of that creating something out of the digital era that
I
still
love
ties
that.
back to our legacy.
Yeah,
As
that was exactly what was going through my head. Is the you think about in the foundry industry, taking one material and transforming it into another one, using a mold, and and creating this new,
right.
this new application for not just the material, but obviously the form and the shape of it, and the use of it, and really kind of doing the same things in some ways with students, which is just really
Right.
really
Right.
fascinating to me. So I love the name. I know I'm going to love the work that you're doing. Let's start out by just talking, Sherri, about the mission and the vision of the organization. What is it you're trying to
Okay.
accomplish?
So one of the first things that was important was that we establish a vision. Like, who do we hope to be? What do we hope our legacy will be? And so our vision, and we always start with this,
Yep.
is to improve lives and strengthen businesses through access to digital technology.
Awesome.
And then our mission to try to move towards that
Yep.
vision is really threefold. And again, we want to keep that in front of our team and in front of our partners, that if it's not aligned with where we're trying to go, then we're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission is in three areas. One is training and education.
Okay.
And there, where we say we address the whole talent pipeline, where we have programming working with partners that starts in K through 12, programming to help our university students, and also workforce training.
Okay.
Then the second piece is what we call technology assistance. So it's helping manufacturers, particularly those small to medium sized, to understand the technologies, de-risk, do some bench scale prototyping before they go out and make major investments, help them to understand what the business case or return on investment might be. And then the third piece is just being a catalyst for communication between education and industry, because there's not enough of that happening. And,
Right.
and we're starting to see already with some of the events that we've facilitated. And we don't need to be in the middle of it. We're just trying to bring those populations together, and we're seeing some great things happening already.
Sure. How many years have you been at it, or how long have you been at it?
1 year.
Okay, 1 year. Yeah, awesome.
So actually, we started setting up for this about 3 years ago. We got a grant from a large private foundation to get this off the ground. But we just, a year ago, June 1st, moved into a brand new building. So I kind of, while we've been working at the concept and getting ready for this and building a new building,
Right.
got to be a part of all of that, from, where do we put this electrical outlet to what technology are we going to put in the lab. So it's been quite a journey, but we officially opened a year ago, June 1st, and we had our first training program in the building the day of our grand opening. And when all our guests left, we had workforce training that night. And we've been running 100 miles an hour ever since.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I mean, all three elements of the work you're doing, so very important. I mean, you start with the upskilling, and obviously we're here in the Education Pavilion, sponsored by FANUC, because of that need to upskill this next generation of technical talent. So that part of it really important. I really love the focus on small to mid-sized businesses. I've worked throughout the spectrum of companies that were sub 20 people, all the way to running a spinoff of Rockwell Automation that was probably 6,000 people, and everything in between. And it's the larger companies, they have whole teams of people working on this, right? They're upskilling the next generation of their talent. They understand how to apply digital tools and solutions into their manufacturing environments, because it's what they're doing. They're able to do that. But the folks that almost need it most are these small to mid-sized companies that you might have one or two manufacturing engineers, and a lot of times they're just trying to keep the line from going down, keep things processing, driving waste out, trying to compete on price, all these other things that they have going on day in and day out. In a world where digitization is totally transforming the work that they're doing.
Absolutely.
So I love that part of it. And then you're right. I came over to education from industry about 6-7 years ago. And, I joke with educators that when I was in manufacturing, I could make a decision on Monday, implement it on Wednesday, and see the results on Friday. Might be exaggerated a little bit, but not too much. Education doesn't work that way. And It's a totally different pace. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received in terms of putting educators and industrial employers together was from a superintendent of a school district in the Midwest, who said, we just tell everybody to check their agendas at the door and admit that they don't speak the same language, and kind of start with that assumption, and then just learn from each other, because they are very, very different entities, but they can accomplish great things when they collaborate. So I love the entire mission and the way all that's coming together. When you talk about the digitization, especially on that second piece of assisting those small to mid-sized businesses, what kind of technologies or processes do you lump into that definition?
So we specifically are very focused on smart manufacturing, kind of that connectivity from the shop floor all the way up to your business practices.
Sure.
But and so that includes robotics, that includes smart sensors and PLCs and all the things you need at that kind of shop floor level to communicate up the chain, MES systems and project lifecycle management, all of those kind of that whole automation pyramid as they call it. But our focus is more on that connectivity. Like, how do you get machines talking to machines, machines talking to your humans,
right?
And getting data and information and eyes on your operation that will allow you to make more intelligent decisions, to move faster, to deal with workforce challenges. And for a lot of the smaller businesses, they come in thinking, well, I need to have robots. And we always take a step back. We go tour their factory, talk about what are your pain points? What do you wish you could fix that would make an impact on your business? And while robots might have a play there, often it starts with, let's first understand, like, how do you get the right data and information in the hands of your operators?
Right.
Day to day.
Yeah.
And then start to take those steps, start to show some return on smaller investments before you go out and invest in major capital. So, we see a lot of robots here, and that's part of it. But I think it's more about that journey that, again, as a large corporation, it's more common that you start with, what's our business strategy? Your business strategy drives your investment decisions and your technology deployment. So for small businesses, a lot of it starts with, let's together define what's your business strategy.
Absolutely.
And not that we're defining it. We're helping you. We're helping to facilitate. Do you know what that is before you go out and make an investment? Because the last thing you want is for them to feel like, I got something I didn't need. I got taken. I'm never going to do this again.
Exactly.
We want them to be healthy and growing. And, when we started this, we approached it very much like a business. Myself and our team all comes out of industry. So we started with kind of a market assessment of what's the addressable market? How are we going to reach that addressable market? We have over 5,000 manufacturing companies within about 40 miles of us. And over 98% of those are classified as small businesses.
Incredible.
And that's the case in any city you go to.
It is, yeah.
So when we talk about those small businesses being kind of the heartbeat and the backbone of our economy, it is absolutely the truth. But how do you keep them there, growing, healthy, providing those good jobs for decades to come?
Absolutely. There's so much wisdom in that approach. We had, as a guest on the podcast, we haven't dropped the episode yet. I think it comes out in the next couple of weeks, but Azatosh Patti, who's the managing director for all of North America for McKinsey & Company, was on with us about 2 weeks ago talking about his book, The Titanium Economy, which is about all of these companies that exist in the United States that nobody's ever heard of, that you don't know who their owners are. They're not the Elon Musks or the Jeff Bezoses of the world. And they're making products that a lot of people don't even realize are products, or they're a component of something else, or you never even thought about the fact that you use that product every day until you realize that somebody had to make it. And he says these are the lifeblood of the American economy. And it sounds like that's exactly the kinds of companies that you're trying to address with your solutions, which is really, really important work. And I love the philosophy as well. I had one of the more interesting conversations I've had around whether it's Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, IoT, Infinity 0.0, whatever we want to call it. Around that technology, it was with a gentleman by the name of John Lowry. John was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps. He was a general manager and senior executive at Harley-Davidson for a long time, and then ended up becoming Assistant Secretary of Labor in the Trump administration. And so while he was going through Senate confirmation, which, that being what it is, took about a year and a half, he and I had lunch in downtown Chicago one afternoon, and we were just talking about Industry 4.0 and the whole logic behind it. And his theory, and I totally ascribe to it, is it's not a step transformation. It's not taking us from, it's going to be transformative, but it's not taking an entire organization from the third industrial revolution to the fourth industrial revolution. It's using it as a lean tool. It's saying, where in my process do I have a problem? Do I have a challenge? Can I be more efficient? Can I improve my customer experience? Can I make a job safer? Whatever it is. Right. And then applying, whether it's robotics, automation, and I also like your kind of device level or edge level to enterprise level continuum, because that's exactly what it is. We've got a sensor to a PLC to a network to a data collector to some MRP or ERP system and cloud computing. And how do you kind of bridge that whole gap? And if I'm understanding it right, your approach is really educating and consulting with small to mid-sized businesses around what those solutions might be, and then helping them understand that approach to deploying automation and technology. Am I getting that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And at the same time, pulling in our students,
Right.
because it gives them a great opportunity to work on real world problems.
Mm-hmm.
It gives those businesses exposure to some incredible young talent.
Right.
And so it's kind of a win-win for the universities and the students.
Talk about how that works. Who are the students? What programs are they in? How do they engage both with your organization and with the employers?
So the Penn State New Kensington campus is a small branch campus, or what we call the Commonwealth campuses. They have some 4-year degree programs in things like engineering, electrical mechanical engineering, and IST, and information science technology. Sure. So those students are a natural fit with some of what we're doing. We pull them in as interns. We have, even though we've only been doing this for a couple of years, we've had about 13 different interns work with us. Wow. We have 5 that have joined us for this summer. And in addition to the engineering and IST majors, we have had an education majors working with us this summer. We have had some communications majors, because those are also functions that are very important to what we're doing.
For sure.
So we're trying to find ways to tie in students across different majors, because these technologies, while it's clear how they're going to be affecting people in engineering and IT type of roles, it's really going to impact everybody,
right,
no matter what your role is in the company.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to pull them in through those functions. We also have done mentoring and support of the senior capstone projects
Mm-hmm.
for engineering students, where they have to design and build automation systems, and we have been involved in that. And then we also, with the assets that we have at the Digital Foundry, we have through some great technical partnerships, mm-hmm, brought in some software, hardware, equipment that they don't have available to them on the campus, especially on a small campus.
Sure.
So the students come and do classes there, do labs there, and have access to some great real world technology that
Absolutely.
They wouldn't otherwise have in their classrooms.
Tell us about some of that technology and those partners, and don't be shy about naming names if you want to. I'd just be
Sure.
interested in what kind of technologies these students are getting exposure to.
FANUC, who's sponsoring the Education Pavilion here,
right,
is a partner with us. We recently became one of their certified trainers.
Awesome.
So we have collaborative robots, traditional robots,
mm-hmm,
one of their robo drill systems
yeah,
there. Siemens is another fantastic partner with us, who has
sure,
provided us with kind of a full stack of industrial software,
mm-hmm,
from what you use on the plant floor to what's used for design and simulation of products. We have other smaller tech startups from
mm-hmm,
our region, integrators. We have software providers that are in some of the niche spaces, like another Pennsylvania-based company is Canary Labs. They
okay,
do data historians and data analytics. Very kind of niche application, but they're fantastic at what they do. They're, yeah, providing some of their software as well as technical support for us. KCF Industries, another Penn State-based startup technology company that does a lot of advanced sensors.
Okay.
So we're pulling in both the large international companies,
yep,
like a FANUC and a Siemens,
sure,
down to some of those smaller regional tech companies. So it gives them exposure for their technologies.
mm-hmm,
And again, like I said, gives both the manufacturers and the students a chance to work with kind of the latest of what's being used on actual plant floors.
Absolutely. So, and these interns that are working in the organization, tell me about that experience. It probably depends a little bit on what their discipline of study is, but what are they busy doing?
So we tell them when they join us, we're like a small business. So you're going to be doing everything from helping us clean up after we've had an event, right, or a class, to helping us put together a automation system for a manufacturer. They have helped us with, as we moved into the facility, assembling equipment, installing software, doing these projects with industry. We have been hosting programs for K through 12, mm-hmm, and so it's great to get the university students to help as kind of near peers with, sure, some of those activities that we're doing with the younger kids. So they get to have their hands in a lot of different, right, things, and they seem to have a lot of fun doing it.
Absolutely.
So, and it brings a whole incredible energy
Absolutely.
having all those
Yep.
young people in the building. And
We have our 4 interns in one of our companies starting this week, and they'll be there all summer. And I mean, I get so excited.
Yeah.
Especially some of the people that were youngsters, 5, 6, 7 years ago when we hired them are now moving on in their careers to have that, have that energy and it's in that really healthy naivete, and they're just so excited to learn. And when you get the right ones that want to kind of make their mark on the organization, it's so much fun to watch them blossom. And what a great opportunity for a young person to be. I mean, it's just an awesome combination of learning from incredibly experienced individuals like yourself with great, great pedigrees and backgrounds and all kinds of real world application of this technology. Then they're working around amazing control systems and smart sensors and FANUC robots and all that exciting stuff. And then engaging with customers. You think about the stories they'll be able to tell in a job interview as they move on, assuming they probably even trip over somebody that would want to hire them when they graduate anyway through the process, but all the stories they can tell, those experiences they can put on their resume, just really, really cool. And I love the way that you touched on the K-12 side of it as well. I know that inspiring K-12 students and giving them great skills and experiences is a big part of your mission as well. So let's chat about that. What are you doing for the K-12 students in terms of inspiring them toward these technologies?
So we have really been a partner with a program that the Penn State New Kensington campus has had going on for several years. It's called ABC Create.
Okay.
And it's a consortium that this Penn State campus leads with 14 regional school districts. And they really focus on helping to educate the teachers around tech that they can use in their classrooms. They have a lending library for some robotics kits. They have worked with educators to build a curriculum that goes with that from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. So it makes it easier for the teachers to have access to it, engage it, know where to start. They do a professional development with those teachers. We'll be doing over the summer, almost like kind of a summer camp for teachers.
Okay, yeah.
Where they come in. We're going to be doing some things with some of our Siemens software, with some of our FANUC robots to give the teachers, educators themselves exposure. And they're not just the traditional STEM teachers.
Right.
A lot of them, we have some that really have embraced this, that are history teachers and Spanish teachers and are looking for ways to bring tech into their classrooms.
Right.
So that's part of it. And our campus has been very kind of forward looking on how to be engaged with the community and with the local K through 12 school districts. But we're also hosting for the kids themselves, again, partnering with educators, because we're not the experts in that area, and we don't hope to be. We want to partner with people who are good at that. Yeah. So as an example, we just partnered with a local group of teachers and administrators and a foundation called R&D Impact to do an after-school program for 4th and 5th graders where they build a robotic petting zoo. Came for 8 weeks after school. They had a blast.
What is a robotic petting zoo? You piqued my interest.
So they used little robotic kits. They're called hummingbird kits that were actually developed by a company that's a spin out of Carnegie Mellon.
Okay.
And they use little servo motors and sensors and create these animals that they wag their tails, they move their mouths, their eyes, motion sensors on them, and they create them out of craft products, but then outfit them with all the motors and sensors.
Yeah, that's cool.
So at the end, we had 21 or 22 kids came, and at the end they were allowed to invite in their parents and family to see what they were doing. We had over 70 people come to see what these kids were doing.
That's awesome.
So that was really cool. And then we're also doing some high school summer camps. We did some last year. As soon as we moved into the building, that was one of the first things we did. And we're about to start another one in June.
Okay.
There they come in, and again, we're really going to up our game this year with having some additional software, hardware, robots, where the kids are going to be able to be doing actual programming on FANUC robots, designing of products on Siemens Solid Edge software, the building of some products on some Stratasys 3D printers that we got in. So, they're really going to get some very real world hands-on.
Sounds like it. And who are the parents and the students that are taking place? I guess the students particularly taking part in the summer camp. Are these students high school students with an interest in STEM? Are they going to engineering? Are they kind of all across the board? So they're
kind of all across the board, and to some extent, we want to be. I always say we want to be ambassadors for careers in manufacturing, but that could be people who go into manufacturing supporting as a communications
Right.
major, or whatever that may be. So we want to keep it as broad as possible. We are really trying to be very targeted too, and pulling in more female and students of color.
Right.
Those populations are still very underrepresented in the field.
For sure.
So we are partnering with some organizations, like an organization called 100 Black Men, that is a great nonprofit mentoring organization, and we're doing a STEM camp for them this
Cool.
summer. With the younger students we brought in, they are all from the school district in the town where we sit, which
Okay.
is a community that has been very under-resourced.
Okay.
A lot of underrepresented populations. So we really wanted to bring in kids from right in our own neighborhood.
Yeah.
We don't sit on the campus. We sit in the heart of New Kensington.
Cool.
So that we can be in the community and visible to the community.
Accessible, yeah. I love
Accessible.
that.
Yeah. So
Really cool. Who funds all this? Where does the funding come from?
So we have been funded entirely by private foundations,
Okay.
some small corporate foundation grants, as well as some federal and state grants, including pieces of the Build Back Better Regional Challenge in
Okay.
our area,
Yep.
Department of Labor, some education and training content through them. The Department of Energy funds us as one of SESME's 7 Smart Manufacturing Innovation Centers.
Sure.
We
yeah.
were just named
Manufacturing
as
USA Institutes. You bet.
yeah, so we were just
Sesme's great.
named as one of those last year. So
Okay.
we're
John
very-
Dyke, by the way, is a member of the Tech Ed podcast, the Alumni Circle, we call it. He's been on the podcast with us. He joined us
Yes.
at at Automation Fair in at McCormick Place this last year. So
we're pleased to be partnered with them, and they review and endorse a lot of our curriculum content that we've developed for workforce, and
Great.
so we have a lot of access to the things that they're doing, and kind of what they call a lighthouse organization for
Yep.
what they're doing.
yeah, you must feel a little bit like you died and went to heaven all this time in industry and in the chemical engineering world, and now you're inspiring all these great new opportunities for young people. Really, really cool. All right, and just a few more questions. Tell us a little bit about the workforce training. You touched on high school students, K-12 students, internships. Tell us about workforce.
So workforce training, we have developed 3 levels of training. First is for entry level, people who are just getting started in manufacturing or looking to get into manufacturing. So we start with some basics of manufacturing and then move into some of the digital technologies and how they're being used today. So our second level then is a little bit more of that practitioner. It might be your shop supervisors, machinists, people that have a lot of manufacturing experience but need to better understand some of the new digital technologies and
Sure.
get into things like programming of PLCs and using dashboards for data and some basics of automation and robotics. Then our level 3 is more advanced for engineers, technical specialists, where you dive a little deeper into how to apply some of these tools from an engineering perspective, do a little bit of writing code, creating
Yep.
your own analytics and dashboards and things like that. So those are what we call our digital manufacturing series. And then we are also doing the FANUC certification training for robotics. And we have plans between now and the end of the year to add some additional training on PLCs, some additional training that's more for business leaders to
Okay.
kind of assess where and how they should apply technologies.
Sure.
So we are going to continue to add to that content, but we kind of have our signature digital manufacturing workshops. Each of those are a 40-hour workshop. A lot of it's hands-on, based on industry use cases, and a chance to use a lot of that hardware and software that I mentioned that we have in
Absolutely.
our lab. So.
Well, and you can see for a small to mid-sized business that's just trying to understand this technology, get intimate with it, understand how a PLC is integrated with a robot to perform a specific application, and to your earlier point, all in the spirit of driving continuous improvement in manufacturing. I can see where that perfectly hits the target. We've got all these cool technologies here at Automate that are hitting the target of advanced manufacturing and future innovation and so on. Are there trends that you see either with your background in industry? I'd be interested. Trends that you see in the industrial side or trends that you're seeing on the education side that our audience should be thinking about?
So I think right now, if you're paying attention at all, you can't ignore things like AI.
Right.
And I think things like AI in combination with collaborative robots and low code, no code kind of programming. A lot of people look at that and they first see the downside, the risks, the how do we control this, and yeah, there's a lot of things that could be negatives with respect to creating challenges around workforce and job elimination, creating some maybe unethical practices with things like AI. But I also see it as something that's could lower the barrier of entry, could level the playing field, both for individuals as well as for organizations, where you don't necessarily have to be an expert at writing code or an expert at programming a traditional robot to start quickly getting up to speed, kind of doing a little bit more of that, almost like crowdsourcing, where now you can get the creativity and the ideas of many without them having to be experts in all of this deep technology. So I think that those are going to open up new opportunities that we haven't even imagined yet. But I do think it will really help to level the playing field and lower the barrier of entry for both individuals and businesses.
No question. I'm with you. I'm fascinated by artificial intelligence. Like any other new tool, it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. And obviously, I think the importance of continuing to innovate that among people of conscience that will use it for good, because if it's just the bad actors that are acting on that technology and innovating there, then we're all in trouble. But I'm an optimist when it comes to artificial intelligence for the reasons that you suggest. I think it improves our way of life. It improves lifestyles for people all over the globe, and we can feed more people. We can transport people where we need them to be. We can spend more time with our loved ones. I mean, all these great things that can come from the positive aspects of artificial intelligence and from automation. We comment often that the closer a job gets to the technology, or the closer the job gets to the automation, the higher it pays, the safer it is, the more interesting it is, the more job security there probably is. So all these benefits that come from this technology. So I think you and I would probably have quite a bit of commonality in terms of how we look at those things. I want to just ask one last question, Sherri, as we wrap up our time together. It's a question we love asking our guests here on the Tech Ed podcast. And, if we go all the way back before this amazing career in industry, before all the great work you're doing now at the Penn State Digital Foundry, before Carnegie Mellon, before, chemical engineering, if you had one piece of advice to give to the 15-year-old Sherri, what would that piece of advice be?
So I think it would probably be a piece of advice that I've given to so many young people that I've mentored or worked with or had the pleasure to pour into over the years. And it's a couple of things. One is kind of really get to know yourself, what you like to do, but sometimes just as importantly, what you don't like to do. For sure. And it's not always about what's the job you're seeking, but are you in that job going to be able to do what you really love? Right. Because there are a lot of different places where you can do what you love. Yeah, for sure. So kind of start with knowing yourself and what you like and what you don't like. But also something that I shared earlier in one of the panel discussion is, don't feel like you have to have the experience and the confidence to take on something new, because you're going to get the experience and the confidence by taking on something new. Absolutely. And the times when I grew the most in my career was when I stepped out of my comfort zone and said, yeah, I'll do that. Yep, absolutely. And it wasn't always comfortable. And I often looked at it and said, what did I get myself into? But a year or two later, I was like, man, that was a great decision. Absolutely. So I would say, don't be afraid to step out, know thyself. Yeah, exactly. And be true to, who you are and what you like to do. That's great advice. I wrote the eulogy for a good friend of mine, passed away a few years ago. And one of the things that, he was a mentor of mine for a long time. And one of the things that I wrote in that eulogy was that he was the person that taught me that I didn't need to know exactly how I was going to get out of something before I went into it, as long as I knew that I had the confidence to figure it out when the time came. And I think it's kind of, as you were saying that, it kind of echoed in my mind that lesson that I learned so many years ago, which is that, you just dive in. I mean, take a risk and you're going to figure it out. And especially if you know yourself and you're true to yourself and your values, the things that tend not only to work out, but work out in crazily good ways. Certainly it did for you. I'm honestly and genuinely fascinated by your background, all the time in industry, and the way that you have found a way now to give back to this really, really important thing. I mean, I say we're securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. The work that you're doing at the Penn State Digital Foundry fits squarely into that.
Sherri McCleary. Really appreciate you spending some time with us. It's been wonderful getting to know you, and thanks for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be